Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to KGTR. This is Tony. If you haven't already, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. Any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. We got a special treat. We have the number 6 issue of Kerrang! In its existence. This is from December of 1981. And many of you guys are loving this new series. We're going to go look at vintage guitar magazines, heavy metal magazines from the 80s. And basically we're going to open them up and see what's inside the magazines, comment on them, goof on them, see what was going on in that year, that decade, who were the top of their game as far as bands, guitar players. And let's see what's up. Let's see what's up in these magazines, all right? So as you can see, we have Kerrang! This is from November 6th. This is from the number 6 issue of Kerrang! And this was released December of 1981. Where were you in 1981? This issue says vote in the polls. Look at my cursor. So we have in color, we have GILLAN. We have AC/DC, Cozy Powell. I still haven't heard of Cozy Powell. I need to look him up on the internet. We have Cozy Powell. And then we have Judas Priest, Led Zeppelin, Status Quo. I remember Status Quo from Live Aid. That was my first exposure to Status Quo. What else? Graham Bonnet. We have Kiss, Bob Seger, and Motorhead. All right, we're going to go ahead and look at this magazine page by page, relive it, and see what was happening back in 1981. All right, let's go ahead and open her up. And as you can see, I was able to scan both pages at the same time. So on the flatbed, now we get both pages. We're going to go obviously left to right. But look, Mayhem. This was a feature in every magazine that I have so far. Mayhem. Sylvia Simmons brings you U.S. Heavy metal news. So look, this is small print. Obviously, I'm not going to read it. And oh, real quick, if there's any interviews or articles that you want me to cover that are in these issues, we have to do a follow-up video, like a 10-minute video, and we can read the interview or interviews out loud. I'll read them out loud so that you can see what they were talking about, what was happening back then. All right, look, Mob Rules, Black Sabbath's new album. So this is with Ronnie James Dio. Now this is December of 1981. You have to imagine where Randy Rhoads was. Why do I mention Randy Rhoads? Because of the connection of Black Sabbath. Ozzy left in December of 81. What was he doing? He was either on tour or he was finishing up Diary of a Madman. Or that was already released also. So put it in perspective. December of 81, you got Randy Rhoads with Ozzy Osbourne about to tour, or maybe they're already on tour for Diary of a Madman, their second album. Right? So that's pretty cool to see it in perspective. It's also sad because in a few short months, Randy Rhoads is going to pass away in 1982. See, if you can go back in time, you would say, Randy, don't get on the airplane, Randy, please. So you can do that. So we're going back in time this way. All right, Mayhem again. Look at Richie Blackmore right there. I want to say this is Ted Nugent, but I can't. Yeah, it is. This is Ted Nugent. Again, this is really small print. So I'm not going to deal with the small print right now, but you get the idea. All right, what else? Oh, that's my phone. Sorry about my phone. All right, Tigers, Pantang, Crazy Nights. That's taking me off. Let me go ahead and turn this off. Let me turn this off real fast. Sorry. Alrighty, I apologize for that noise. All right, so this is Tigers and Pantang, Crazy Nights. I never heard of this. Maybe you have, though. Let me know what you thought about Tigers and Pantang. They must have disappeared because I never seen them in the U.S. or any videos on MTV. So maybe they came and went, all right? Look, Kerrang! Readers Poll. So this is where you pick your favorite band, male singer, female singer, your favorite new band or act, your favorite album, your favorite single or EP, your favorite guitarist, keyboardist, bassist, your favorite drummer, your tight trousers. Man, who looks the best in tight trousers, right? And then you got your tight trousers in female. So that would be what? Pat Benatar, possibly Blondie, possibly Quarter Flash, Linda Ronstadt. Who was around back in the 80s? Altered Images, because they're looking for chicks. Look, your favorite DJ, your favorite TV show in 1981. What was it? Bore, name and address. So you go ahead and submit your name and address, or you fill out your name and address and you go ahead and mail it in the Kerrang Readers Poll. Look at this over here. Judas Priest took on the world and won. Look at this. They left them reeling around the world, and now Judas Priest stormed back into the UK. So they went to the US, traveled, and now they're coming back home. Well, the home is the UK, right? And look at these albums. Look at these albums right here. Look. So by 1981, they already had 6 albums. Now, little did Judas Priest know. Isn't this cool? In 1981, they're coming back to the UK, right? What was released in 1982? Screaming for Vengeance. Do you see that album anymore here? No. That was their biggest album. So these were good albums. These were okay albums. But by 1982, Screaming for Vengeance put Judas Priest on the map. It just did. So imagine going back in time. Alright, look at this. Now, I just can't tell who this is from the picture. So if you know who this is, let me know, okay? Let me know who that is. Look, is this GILLAN? Maybe it's GILLAN. Look, GILLAN. Look at GILLAN. Check out GILLAN. Isn't that cool? Right. Look at this poster. See, back in the day, right here would be the staples. You would tear this out, put it on your wall or locker. Or you would tear this out, put it on your wall or locker. Right. Captain Gillan. Isn't that cool? Look, Gillan. So you want to know about Gillan? I'll be happy to read it to you. Look at this pose. Now this pose reminds me of Total Ingve, because Ingve did this pose a lot with Alcatraz, Rising Force, and then on his solo stuff. He always, this right here is quintessential Richie Blackmore pose. And I always saw Ingve copying this pose because I was one of his favorite guitar players. So Richie Blackmore, Picado, has always bought the only strings he'll play, the best of Rainbow. Now I never heard of Picado strings, but you know, to each their own. Right, again, John McCoy, that's his name. Look, Rainbow, the best of Rainbow, Rush, exit, stage left. So you can buy 1981 Rainbow, the best of Rainbow for $4.99. I remember that price vividly because I bought a lot of records at $4.99. I even bought that price of records back in 1976, 77. I was buying Beatles records and Kiss records for $4.99. I remember well. I remember going to a FedMart and getting records at the grocery store, department store for $4.99. Look at this record, Rush, $5.49. It was a double album. So you got 2 records, and you're like, oh, do I have enough for 1 or 2? But I get 2 records here, so you would buy the double album. It was good. All right, Hot Shot. Look at this, Rick Emmett, Sylvia Simmons. Talks to Triumph's Rick Emmett. So if you were curious about what this article was about, I'd be happy to read it to you. I just have to blow it up. But Triumph is awesome. They did a concert, MTV weekend concert. It's online. Just type in Triumph Live 1981, I believe, or 1982. And that whole show is online. It's a great show, and that was also on MTV's weekend concert. That was my first exposure to Triumph. Plus I saw late on the line videos on MTV, so I had to watch the concert. And I was a big fan of Rick Emmett, and after that concert on MTV, I went out and bought all their albums to date. And there's not one bad album. And then I saw them live a couple of times in San Diego. Alright, look at these awesome photos. Now I can't rotate this for you, but just look at the screen. Look at Gene Simmons right here. This is during their, I want to say, is this Dynasty? This isn't Dynasty, is it? What? No, this is the Creatures of the Night, right? No, what is this? Oh, this is the Elder era, see? Now I'm good. Yeah, 1981 is the Elder. So this is the Elder. I think I was in 10th grade already. I was in 10th grade in high school, I believe. Yeah, these are the clothes for the Elder. Now, they were really weird because 80s metal was getting heavier with Scorpions, Judas Priest, Van Halen, Mean Streets, right? Here's Kiss with the Elder, probably their worst album of all time. You know, it was just way out there. I get they wanted to be creative, but they lost a lot of fans with the Elder. They just did. I liked it. I liked the album, but it was just totally different. I didn't care for all that symphony and orchestra stuff, but they wanted to do it, and they could do it, and they learned their lesson well. All right, look at these posters. Or headshots. Paul Stanley, Gene. Probably the last photos of Ace Frehley. I think he got fired or he quit after the Elder. So was it yeah, it was Dynasty then the Elder. And then here's Eric Carr. So Peter Criss was already gone. Alright, look, armed and ready. More new bands to watch out for. So this was Deep Machine right here. This was Per Se Risk. Personable Risk. I can't read that far. And I can't, let me see if I can zoom it in, okay? Hold on. Persian Risk? What kind of name is that? Persian Risk. Alright. And then Crowbar, whatever that is. Overkill. Oh, Overkill. Overkill was pretty big, right? What's this? Sparta. Never heard of Sparta. Treason. Sister. Yeah, these bands came and went. Maybe they were okay during in the UK, but they never crossed over into the US. At least not that I know of. So. But at least kudos to Kerrang, because they would give me the spotlight. Hey, remember, this is before the internet. Hey, check out these bands. Check out their single. Check out their tour. They're playing at these clubs. Da 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 da. And you would go out and go to the record store, maybe buy the single. If you were lucky enough, they're touring in your little city or wherever you live in the UK. You went to go see them. So that's how you went to go see these bands. Or if you were lucky enough, you get on MTV and then get totally exposed throughout the world. Alright, look at this. Cozy Pal. So I don't know what kind of music Cozy Pal is. I need to look him up. But apparently Cozy Pal made Kerrang magazine. Maybe because he was just big in 1981. I don't know. Alright, Graham Bonnet. So I guess Graham Bonnet, I don't know if he was a singer yet for, I don't know if Graham Bonnet here is solo or if he was a singer for Rainbow. I just remember Jolene Tyler. Jolene Turner was a singer for Rainbow. And he did Stone Cold. So I think Graham Bonnet was by himself. So, oh, I take it back. So I think Graham Bonnet here was by himself. Jolene Tyler, whatever, Turner, he was with Rainbow. Because around 84, Graham Bonnet went with Alcatraz. So here he is by himself, I think. Right, Bonnet Power now for the solo Graham. Okay, yeah, so in 1981, in December, Graham Bonnet was already going solo. So I think he was solo until he did Alcatraz. Okay, look at this. 1981. Yep, remember I was telling you what was happening in December of 1981? Just when you thought it was safe, Ozzy's back with an ear-splitting album. So here they're promoting in December of 1981, Randy Rhoads' Diary of a Madman. Possibly Randy's best album. Obviously his only album with Ozzy. His last album, rather, right? But Diary of a Madman is totally different guitar-wise than Blizzard of Oz. Blizzard of Oz gave you a taste of what Randy could do outside of Quiet Riot. And Diary of a Madman made you like turn your head like, what the hell is this? That's why Eddie Van Halen loved Randy Rhoads' playing on Diary of a Madman. Where the story goes, Randy, you have to believe Randy, was at a Tower Records, looking at the promotions or whatever, or in the store, and there he saw Eddie Van Halen with this album in his hands at checkout or walking out of the store with Randy's album. So that must have been flattering, awesome to see. I don't know if they saw each other, but Randy said he saw Eddie Van Halen with a copy of Diary of a Madman leaving the store or buying the album. So Eddie knew what was up. Eddie, even though Eddie was doing Mean Streets, he knew that he wanted to check out the competition, and he was checking out Ozzy or Randy. That was cool. So that was really cool. All right, look at these now. The beauty of scanning these magazines in full. This is the full spread. Look at this full spread. Look at Status Quo. Again, I never heard of Status Quo. They were big in the UK, I guess. My exposure was through Live Aid. And millions of people saw Status Quo because of Live Aid. And that was 1985. So 4 years later, I learned about Status Quo. So this is a poster shot. Isn't that pretty cool? Yeah. Again, you would carefully remove this and then put this on your wall or your locker room. Right. Status Quo, 1962 to 1981. Scorpions, Spectre, Cadet, Spectre. I don't know what this is. I think this is pretty much like a tree. This is like a tree of who's who what bands they came from, what bands they're going to, and so on and so forth. Alright, these are some cool pictures and posters. Remember, the beauty about Kerrang was a lot of this stuff was in color. So here we go. Kerrang in color. Look, Bob Seger. Led Zeppelin. So 1981, here's Led Zeppelin. Look, the double Gibson SG right there. Look at Robert Plant. Greta Van Fleet wasn't born yet. None of the kids were born yet. I don't know if their parents are born yet. Maybe, but here's Led Zeppelin. Isn't that cool? Heart in Hollywood. Isn't this cool? Look. Now, put this in perspective. This magazine was published in the UK, right? Written in the UK. Made in the UK. So here is, before we go over here, Heart in Hollywood. So here's Pat Benatar. I don't know who that, oh, Heart. So here's Pat Benatar and Heart. K West 106, Heart. Sylvia Simmons squeezes into Heart's gig at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Alongside her were Queen's Brian May, Roger Taylor, Stevie Nicks, and Carmine Appice. That's pretty cool back in 1981. Now look at the scene right here. Now, West Hollywood, Van Halen was already signed. Remember, they got signed in 77? So picture a lot of bands right here at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Bands that would later get signed back in 82, 83, 84, 85. They all played here. Rat, Dokken, Quiet Riot, Def Leppard, what's that band called? Obviously, Warrant. All the 80s bands were played here. Black and Blue, Striper. All these bands were playing here all over the club circuit to get exposed and get signed. Look, you don't know how boring stadium events can become. They're good for the financial side, but that's not everything. Because sometimes playing with intimate crowds is everything. And Club Whiskey A Go-Go was the place to play. So isn't it legendary right here? Look, Whiskey A Go-Go right over there. Alright, here's AC/DC, beautiful color picture. Judas Priest. Again, this is right before Screaming for Vengeance tour. So he hasn't shaved his head yet. Remember how he shaved his head? He's got short hair here, but he's going to have a totally different look on Screaming for Vengeance tour. That's pretty cool. The granddaddy of rock and roll. Here's Ozzy Osbourne. So this is December 1981. So here, I don't know if they're talking about Randy or if Randy's mentioned in this, but if you want me to read this aloud to you, I'll be more than happy to. All I gotta do is print it out on paper where I can read it, and this is really small. And I'll be happy to read this article. Look over here. Look right here, my cursor. There's Randy Rhoads. Look at Randy Rhoads. Look, Blizzard of Oz, and there's Randy Rhoads right there. So, and this is right before he died. Look, this is December of 1981. So it's curious to see where they're talking about where they'd like to go, what their future holds for them after this album. You know, little do they know that Randy is secretly thinking, I'm done with this. I probably got one more tour or one more year left with Ozzy Osbourne. I'm out of here. Little do they know. Look, Rent a Mouth. Sammy Hagar opens his gab, nothing unusual, about David Lee Roth, Ronnie Montrose, and Ted Nugent, and Sylvia Simmons stands back. Alright, now this is cool for several reasons. This is 1981. What's his beef with David Lee Roth? I'd have to reread this to tell you what it's about, but he's talking about David Lee Roth here. So if you're curious what he has to say about David Lee Roth in 1981, mind you, this is before he joined Van Halen in 84, 85, and then the feud later on with David Lee Roth in the 2000s, 2020s. But in 1981, I don't know if he's praising David Lee Roth or going off on David Lee Roth. So if you're curious, I'd be more than happy to revisit this interview with David Lee Roth going off on, or interview with Sammy Hagar going off on David Lee Roth. So let me know. I'd like to wrestle Ted Nugent. We should do it in England. And we'll have Sugar Ray Leonard open and we'll headline. So that's pretty cool, right? So he's got some choice words for David Lee Roth. I wonder what he's saying about Van Halen. So if you're curious, let me know and I'll be happy to read it out loud. Alright, Steve Gett delves into the Loud library, strictly for connoisseurs. Again, my other earlier issues, I had this at one page at a time. So connoisseurs was always by itself. But look, Here's the Scorpions. Lonesome Crow, Bebop Deluxe, Fortuna, Angel, hell of a band. That's the name of the band. Derringer Live, Montrose. So these are the albums back in 1981. Montrose, Derringer Live, Angel, Scorpions, Bebop Deluxe. Remember that band an issue or 2 issues ago? Witch Angel. I love it. Witch Angel or Angel Witch. No, it's Angel Witch, right? No, it's a cool name. Has someone looked up online yet to see what Angel Witch was about on YouTube? All you got to do, I ask for you, is just to go to YouTube and type in Angel Witch, 1981 heavy metal band. See what pops up. Angel Witch. I just love that name. Isn't that cool? Maybe I should make some merchandise. Obviously, they're defunct, right? They broke up years ago. Who knows if they're alive, whatever. But can you imagine if I came up with some Angel... some Angel Witch merchandise, just because I like the name, the combo. That's a cool name, right? Angel Witch. Maybe I'll take it. It'll be my merchandise, my logos, my design, my money. I'm not capitalizing on Angel Witch. I just love that name, Angel Witch. Alright, what's next? Alright, look at this killer poster shot of Motorhead. Stars and their cars. That was a little segment on some of the issues of Kerrang. And look at Samson. Here's the band Samson. I never heard of Samson, but I'm sure they were probably popular in the UK. Anyone's heard of Samson? Let me know. Were they heavy? Were they hard rock? How was the guitar player? How was the singer? Let me know about Samson. Alright, we're almost done with this issue. Because we're doing 2 pages at a time. Look, 25 GILLAN albums to be won. So GILLAN had 25 albums back in 1981. Look, Wear It Loud Kerrang t-shirts for £2.95, including postage and handling. Kuros Word. Holocaust live on video. Isn't that sad? A heavy metal band called Holocaust. They should use that name. It's taboo. That name is taboo. Alright, what else? Alright, pen pals. So back then, obviously no internet. So you grab a piece of paper, pen or pencil, write whatever you want to write, put it in an envelope, link it, put a stamp on it, mail it out. Hopefully a magazine editor, column writer will read your letter and say, you know what, I'm going to publish this letter and put it right here. Otherwise you're just wasting your time. Alright, here's posters. Harlequin, top for hymn books, or I'm sorry, top for heavy metal books. Sorry, I thought it said hymn. Alright, here's some jewelry right here. Led Zeppelin right there. The cross, Rush, and all that stuff. Alright, what else? Again, letters. Dear so-and-so. Dear so-and-so. Where are they now? Alright, but this is all small print. Remember, we're just flipping through the pages to give you a glimpse and a look to see what was being published, what they were sharing, what they were talking about, and so on. And again, you want me to talk about the Sammy Hagar beef with David Lee Roth back in 1981? No, I'm sure it may be online. So go ahead and type in Sammy Hagar talking about David Lee Roth 1981. See if it shows up. Alright, and that is the back issue, or the back issue. That's the back cover of the front cover of the latest Kerrang issue. The number 6 of December of 1981. Alright, let me know what you thought about this issue. A lot of color photos. What was happening in 1981? Who were your favorite bands in 1981? Look, in this issue we had GILLAN, AC/DC, Cozy Powell, Judas Priest, Ozzy, and so forth. These bands were, this was heavy metal, right? Still, there's no Quiet Riot. There's no Pyromania Def Leppard, right? There's High and Dry Def Leppard, but there's no Pyromania Def Leppard. Remember, they exploded in 1983. There's no Queensryche, right? There's no Wasp. There's no Lizzie Borden, right? There's no Rat. There's no Dokken. Now, they may be in the garage somewhere recording. They may be going... There's no Motley Crue. I think Motley Crue may be... this is 1981. I don't know if they formed in 82 or 81. But if there was Motley Crue, they're playing the clubs. They're playing little backyards and so forth. So isn't that cool when you go back in time? Alright, I'm Tony. Let me know what you thought about this issue. Let me know what you thought about the music scene of 1981, particularly December of 81. Again, to put it in perspective, they interviewed Ozzy and the band for the Blizzard of Oz album. In just a few short months, in 1982, Randy would pass away. That's been so sad. So sad. He toured some shows in 1982, and then Brad Gillis stepped in. But it's sad when you go back in time. Alright, thanks for joining me here at KGTR. Thank you for enjoying this series of Page by Page, where we grab old vintage metal magazines, guitar heroes, and see what was happening back in the day, and revisit them, relive them, and comment and goof on it, and so forth. Alright, I'm Tony. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you all in the next video.